Imagine you're sitting in a library. Dusty shelves, the smell of old paper. You decide to pick up a book. You aren't sure whether this book will be worth your time, but you open it anyway. You read the first page, then the next, until 3 hours have passed by, and you stand up and think to yourself, I'm not the same person who sat down to read this book. So, what really happened in there? The library didn't change, the words on the book didn't change. But what did change was you. Ideas aren't things that we have. Ideas are things that have us. And when an idea takes hold, when an idea truly has you, you cannot help but walk differently, lead differently, and view the world with a different lens. Ideas exist in two states. First, in your mind or your imagination, and second, in reality. And the process of converting that idea from imagination to reality is one of the most important things that we can learn in today's world. Before the airplane existed, someone imagined flying. Before the electric bulb existed, someone imagined a world without darkness. And before the internet existed, someone imagined a way for billions of people to connect. The future isn't built with concrete. The future is built with ideas. But ideas alone don't change the world, because ideas don't act. People do. And that brings us to a fascinating question. What happens when an idea enters your mind? I want you to think about yourself for a moment. A teacher who said something you will never forget. A movie you watched which changed the way you view life. Or a conversation you had with a friend which you still remember to this day. Notice something there. The words in the conversation lasted only a few seconds. Yet the impact lasted far longer. Why? Because ideas are like seeds. Once planted in the right mind, they grow. Sometimes quietly, sometimes for years. And then suddenly, they transform everything. One idea can alter a decision. That decision can alter a life. And that life can alter thousands, if not millions of other lives. The effect spreads far beyond what we can see. Like a domino chain. One piece falls, then another, until the entire pattern changes. I want to share a story about myself, something similar to this library scenario. When I started my JEE preparation exactly a year ago, I was getting really bad test scores in my first few tests. And the scores were so awful that I found myself sitting on my bedroom floor one night, wondering where it all went wrong. At that point, I had convinced myself that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't cut out for JEE. Because up until then, I had pretty good grades. I didn't really have a problem with studies or anything. But because of that, I felt like I hit a glass ceiling. That is when, just by pure chance, I looked at a book that I had, Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. The essential idea in this book states that there are two types of mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. The fixed mindset believes that intelligence is something you're born with. You're either smart or you aren't, and you can do very little to change it. The growth mindset, on the other hand, believes that intelligence can be cultivated, that you can change your IQ and you can gain abilities through learning and effort. I realized I was stuck in the fixed mindset, thinking that I didn't have the talent to begin with. But reading the book changed something fundamental in me. Suddenly, my bad test scores weren't proof that I would fail. My mistakes weren't the end of the world. Instead, they became opportunities of growth. They became proof that I was trying, that I was putting in the work. And I had to accept the fact that to be great at something, I had to be bad at it first. This one idea changed how I approached studying, how I approached failure, and how I approached myself. And that single shift has led to countless of decisions afterwards. And the interesting thing is, this idea did not change my future directly. It changed me and I changed my future. That's how ideas work. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine you and I get teleported to the year 2010 and we're offered the choice to buy Bitcoin. Now, almost all of us would put our entire life savings on it, right? Who wouldn't? But if you really think about it, if you actually lived at that time, you would not invest in Bitcoin. Because just the idea of a digital cryptocurrency running on decentralized computers around the world based on algorithms which nobody understood sounded ridiculous. And it still does. But the greatest ideas in history almost always sounded ridiculous at first. This isn't a single incident. This is a pattern. For example, in the year 1903, the New York Times published an editorial titled "Flying Machines Which Do Not Fly." Essentially, what they discussed in this editorial was that we would take anywhere between 1 million to 10 million years to achieve flight. But just 69 days later, two cycle mechanics in North Carolina, USA, just achieved the first successful flight. Now let me rephrase that. When the entire world believed that flying was impossible for humans, that we could never achieve flight even in a million years, two brothers who believed in that ridiculous idea had just changed the world. That is the power of belief. At this point, you might be wondering, how can I apply this concept in my daily life? For that, I have 3 practices for you, which I call the SAS framework. The first S stands for sit with the discomfort of your idea long enough to be changed by it. We are trained to debate, to dismiss, and find flaws in ideas. Whenever we hear of a new business idea, we find reasons why it would fail, why an idea would not work. But the world's most revolutionary leaders did not just dismiss their idea. They stayed with it. They let their idea change them before they could change the world. If Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, or Rosa Parks had just dismissed their idea, if they did not let their idea stick for long enough for it to change them, they could not have made an impact on the world. The A stands for act before you feel ready. Most of us wait for the perfect moment, until we feel more ready, until we feel more qualified, maybe until we're older. But the truth is, you will never feel ready for the future you're supposed to make. Action is one of the most crucial steps that we can take. There's a story about Michael Jackson that has always fascinated me. He once said that whenever a melody or an idea came to him, he had to act upon it immediately. Otherwise, he believed that God would give that idea to Prince instead, who was his rival at the time. So whenever Michael Jackson got an idea, whether it was 3 p.m. in the afternoon or 3 a.m. in the night, he rushed to his studio and worked on his idea. He treated ideas as opportunities with an expiry date. Because perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't having a bad idea. It's not even failing at your idea. The greatest tragedy is having a brilliant idea but never giving it the chance to exist. The last S stands for share your idea. In the medieval times, people believed that the earth was the center of the universe. But Copernicus had a different idea. Copernicus believed that the sun was in fact the center of the universe and all the other planets revolved around the sun. But he was afraid that he would be ridiculed and opposed for his idea. So he did nothing, except he shared his idea with his astronomer friend Rheticus. Now, Rheticus believed that this idea was revolutionary and he should definitely publish it. And so he did. Now, imagine if Copernicus had never shared with Rheticus. Copernicus had this idea for decades, yet history did not begin to change when the idea was born. History began to change when he chose to share it with Rheticus. Ideas don't change the future in isolation. Ideas change the future when they inspire another mind. So, remember the SAS framework. Sit with the discomfort of your idea, act before you feel ready, and share your idea. At last, the question I ask you today is not what next trillion-dollar idea will change the world. No, that's too large for any of us to hold. The question I ask you today is smaller, it's closer, it's more urgent. What idea is already inside you that is half-baked, which makes you feel a little uncomfortable or maybe a little frightened? Because ideas like that, ideas which invoke a sort of emotion in you, ideas which make you feel a type of way, those are the ideas which have the potential of truly changing the world. Now, what I want you to do is embrace the discomfort that comes with the idea. I want you to analyze, interpret, and question your idea in all the ways possible. Because if you believe in your idea long enough, the world will have no choice but to follow you. At last, whatever you do, never ask yourself, what if I fail? Instead,